Let's do this. It's got my testing going on. I'm just checking the preview right now. Okay, I think we're live. I think we're good to go. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of DeLorean Tech and another Bring a Trailer live stream. So we have an 83 DeLorean, later model, very later model. It's a 20 series VIN, right? So we also have Chris Miles on the line as well here. Say hi to everybody.
Hello, everyone.
So we got 31 minutes left. We're at 42,000 on this 83 5-speed. I think it's a gray interior. Manual car out of Texas with 57,000 miles on it. So it is VIN 20042. So definitely a much later VIN car than what you normally see in the 83s. Let's
Probably
see.
one of the last cars assembled.
Yeah, it could be. I'm curious to see what the graffiti is behind the door panels or the the headliners. Yeah, curious to see what's written on there. I wonder if the owner even knows, right?
Yeah.
So I was looking at this
Pretty
car.
active in this listing.
Yeah. So maybe he's got photos of it. I guess we'll find out. I kind of looked through these photos and I looked through the car a little bit this morning just to kind of get a preview of what we have. And I'm a little mixed on it so far. It's got 58,000 miles, what I think is actually a good thing, right? And it seems like the owner, or 57,000 rather, which is a good thing, right? The car's been driven. And it's been driven. It's still got, one thing I noticed, it still has the plastic overflow bottle, coolant overflow bottle in there. So that's kind of a testament to those bottles. I guess some of them were okay, maybe some weren't. Maybe there was a QC issue. I don't know. Any thoughts on that, Chris?
Well, back in the 80s, that was like one of the first products that all the third-party DeLorean parts vendors started selling. So they must have seen failures like prematurely, but obviously some of them must have been okay too because they haven't blown up yet.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if that has anything to do with this being a late model car. Some of the stuff was sort of addressed. I don't know if that was identified until after production ceased and distribution ceased, right? And the
Right.
I don't know.
Like by 84, 85, all the metal bottles started coming onto the scene. But
okay, yeah. So it may not have been something that they identified, like some of the other stuff that they identified and issued those, I guess those recalls and those memos and stuff like that. The front anti-sway bar and things like that, right? Some of the bushing plates, whatever, right? So the car is a little dirty. I'm not gonna say it's rough, but it needs some cleaning. If you look at the the oil pan, for example,
right.
And I did read there was some hail damage too. That's one thing that kind of caught my eye. Here is that let's see, it set it up here. We'll just kind of go through some of this stuff since we got plenty of time. Sitting at 42,000. It's been that way at least for the duration of the morning that I could tell. I don't know if this car was at 42. We can take a look down below at the bids, but it did say that there's hail damage on the roof. We'll look at some photos to see if that includes the doors as well.
I'm not sure if it's going to be visible in the photos. The guy said it was hard to
hard to pick up. So, around the vehicle or picture below, close up in the photos of the body panels and the trim. Windshield was replaced in 2017. We got some LED lights. No, black stripes and quadruple headlights. Well, that's just
regular.
Yeah, that's just generic stuff here. What else? 185 65 front and 215 65 rear. So a little deviation there from original tires. Starfire, I don't even think I've heard of that brand before. So there's that, right? Of course, you know, more than likely your DeLorean's going to have something that's got some very old tires on it, and you're going to need to go with the Hankooks, which fortunately are affordable, right?
Right.
Very inexpensive thing to replace there. It's got Polk audio, subwoofer speakers, a few upgrades, got a little stereo system going on there. I did note that the original factory radio, it's probably the ASI, is also included with the sale here. Headliners, glove box lid, and dashboard were replaced, which is always great. Air conditioning system said to have been recharged in preparation for the sale. What does that mean?
There's new fittings on the compressor, and it looks like one of the hoses was replaced.
Okay, good. Good. So hopefully that was the high side hose. That seems to be the one to fail. If any were, either of the three, I guess, were to fail, that would be the one. Depending on what you have.
Yeah. I think some coolant hoses have been replaced on it. They did a coolant hose kit.
Yeah, we can look at some detailed photos of that later. So we got Dave in the chat. Do you want to buy the DeLorean? Do I personally want to buy the DeLorean? Negative. I already got an 83. If it were an automatic, because I kind of, you know, want a second car. Although, I don't know. It's kind of, I'm kind of mixed on that, you know, on having a second car. Yeah, we'll see.
Well, I think permanently, I'd only want to own one, but
right. There's always that second floater car that you could work on and then resell, right?
Yeah.
Chris Hogarth's doing that too, right? But he's actually selling his first car, well, his second car, I guess technically, right? The delivering the dream car, and he's going to keep the automatic. At least that's what it sounds like.
I don't know if that was public knowledge yet.
Well, now it is. So
now it is. Breaking on DeLorean tech.
Right. All right, so we got some driving videos here. So let's play some of that. Let's see if we can get the volume up on this. So we've got some drive-bys here. It looks good. It looks like it runs. I don't know if you saw these driving videos, Chris, or the startup.
I did the startup and idle video. I didn't look at the driving.
Yeah, you can tell. Looks to me like the low side hose was replaced. That's the top hose. The high side is on the bottom of the AC compressor. Hopefully they replaced the right one. There were issues. I mean, if there was a leak, you would know, right? When my high side hose blew, it was very obvious, right? At least that there was a problem with the AC system. At least not immediately. I thought it had something to do with the cooling system as opposed to the AC system, because the refrigerant, at least what had sort of escaped from the hose, it was green. It just was on the wrong side of the car, right? So that kind of threw me for a loop, and I think at that time I was only like 1 year into ownership, so I was not even, you know, aware of what was going on. I remember I was on my way to the Peterson when it happened. I actually had my dad in the car, and we were on our way to that Framing John DeLorean screening with Tamir and everybody, right? And saw all this white smoke coming from the back, and we were almost there. We were in like downtown LA, and we pulled off, looked inside, and I saw some green like liquid. I'm like, oh man, was that coolant? Is that like, that's the first thing you're gonna think of, right? Not really having been super familiar with the car's AC system. Really, now I am, obviously, because after that happened, I'm like, you know what, we need to learn this. We need to learn this system, and did the replacement of the high side hose. I think I found because it actually the hose ruptured, but it ruptured underneath, so I could not see it. Right, it wasn't apparent to me. Okay. Yeah, so it ruptured underneath. On the fitting, right at the connection, and this looks like he replaced the low side, which has a larger diameter hose. Let's see what we got here. So this is just a walk around video. So the car looks all right from afar. I want to see the close-ups of the hail damage that we're talking about here.
There's probably a brake fluid leak at some point because the fuel cover plate under the car has some peeling epoxy.
Okay. Yeah, that'll do it. Stuff is very corrosive.
Well, what's interesting is that this is an 83, but it doesn't have all that black undercoating on it, which is interesting.
I wonder if it was removed at some point. You can at least remove. I know a lot of mine has been either removed. I don't know if that was intentional or if it just like started coming off for whatever reason. You get that around where the like you said, where some of the brake lines are at, potentially if there was some leaking, you can have some, and maybe they decided, well, it's coming off here, why don't just take the rest of it off, right? You see that?
It was a 20,000 series car, maybe it was never coated because it was never at the docks waiting.
Oh, good point. Yeah, that's a good point. That's probably what it is. If it was one of the last of the production cars from the factory, maybe just didn't have the chance to get coated because it was never on the docks, and they only did that to inhibit or mitigate atmospheric corrosion. At least that was the idea, because the epoxy that was supposed to inhibit corrosion of the frame, So they knew something was up with that epoxy, right? It kind of tells you something. What else we got here? It's just got some, standard videos of the interior. I want to see some other driving videos, though. He's only got that one drive-by. He doesn't have, like, what it's like driving, like from the cabin, right? Any cabin driving videos. Well, I mean, he's got that one, so there's some evidence that the car drives, right? Assuming that's the one. It's kind of from far away. With these bring a trailer auctions, you never know what you're gonna get. So the more the seller is willing to provide, the better.
Right.
And this seller has been looking at some of the other auctions. This seller knows that there, a lot of these other auctions prior to have the in-cabin driving videos, right? So why not just add that? I mean, what's the big deal? So that's always kind of a super red flag, maybe a yellow flag. We got a lot of photos here. We can kind of go through. Something's dripping. Some of these photos. I don't know if that's just. It's only on one side though. Driver's side, rear. There's a puddle. So that's always kind of a, the front end looks a little rough with the headlights and the fascia. Yeah, I mean of course that's all superficial, right? The serious stuff that you want to look for is how the car runs, because you may think, well, I could work on it, get somebody to work on it, but man, we've seen cars that people have kind of gone through to try to like get into, and it's a challenge sometimes, right? It's a challenge. What you see, what you don't see, right, on the inside, can be very difficult to address issues. You really have to kind of go through point A to point Z on these cars when they don't run right, and kind of like a trial and error kind of thing with the troubleshooting, you know. And as long as you get somebody who's familiar with the car, they can pinpoint, you know. And if you take it to, you know, DMC or DeLorean Midwest or whoever, or Chris Miles, 88
Right.
miles DeLorean service, Toby, or whoever, right, that know the car, or at least reach out to the community. You know, those issues, there's a lot of support, right, for those issues out there. Owners and, you know, technical people are always willing to help out. So it's got, the car's been driven. You can tell, right? That front
Right.
fascia's got like a lot of nicks on it, so it's seen a lot of like stuff. So, but that's not a bad thing. You know, I was very happy to have bought my DeLorean with 91,000 miles on it, right? Nothing absolutely wrong with that. But what I normally see here is that these cars on Bring a Trailer, it's just like anything, right? The low mileage cars are the ones that usually end up with the highest bids, the highest closing bids, right? You get more money. It's just how it is. And that's, you know, that's, it's pretty normal. He's missing some screws on the taillights. I did notice that.
Sometimes those fall out.
Yeah, yeah, it is what it is. So there's a superficial corrosion here and there. Overall, you know, there's nothing seriously wrong with the body. I think the louver probably needs to be refinished, and some of the plastic on, you know, the black plastic needs to be, there needs to be some, either you can replace that or try to refinish some of that. With these cars, it's been a, you know, it's a driving car. He's driven the car, so it's
Right.
been outside quite a bit. Um, so I don't know if the emblem is just like faded or if that's just the, you know,
I think
the
it's just like sun bleach.
sun bleached. Yeah. So the wheels, you know, there's some issues. Some of the paint is starting to come off of the wheels a little bit. So those, again, superficial stuff. There's, you know, the usual interior kind of stuff with the leather, the discoloration. Some of the stitching is starting to deteriorate. So I think at some point the leather is going to start to separate, and you're going to see the foam inside. And it's kind of like my car. I just keep putting it off, right? Um, but if somebody wants a manual car, a lot of photos here. We're still at 42,000 and 13 minutes left on this one.
That's going to be a good value if it sticks around there.
Went up to
Oh, are
42
you starting to
250.
go up?
Yep, 42 250. So he's got a little audio system going on in there. Oh, he's got the fire extinguisher on the passenger side right there when you come in. I don't know if that's the best place for it because people might hit it coming in. I've never seen one there before. It's usually sometimes behind the seat. They'll mount it there, in the under the bonnet. It's another way to.
Right.
I've got two, one behind the seat and one under the bonnet. So overall, it's not. It just needs to be cleaned. You know, maybe the seller's just not that serious. I see leaves and stuff in
Right.
in the trunk.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? He could have taken a vacuum before he took the photos. You know, you know, it's one of those things. I can't tell if the cars have a reserve or not. Is there an indicator on these auctions if they do or not, or is it just you find out at the end?
I don't see anything thing on here so far.
Yeah. I didn't really read through the seller's comments on the car, if this was a no reserve or not. Like I said, I just kind of started reading through some of the stuff this morning. Still got the original fuel lines in there, so that's definitely something that we're going to want to, that's going to need to be addressed after, Again, you're kind of running on borrowed time. And, that's been, so the plastic overflow has got some interesting discoloration going on there. Yeah, it looks like the sticker had come off, and that's one of them. And then there's something else there, so it's kind of interesting. But, it's very common to see the discoloring on those. And I don't remember who told me, but somebody kind of described the exact issue with these overflow coolant bottles and why they failed, why there was a failure mode. And I think it was due to the coolant, when it enters the coolant bottle at whatever pressure, was hitting a certain area. And I think it's the back, which I guess would be closer to the rear of the car. And that's kind of where they noticed the failure. I just don't remember who kind of went into detail on that. I mean, any insight on that, Chris?
I haven't heard that specifically, but if there's a weak point in the bottle and if the hot coolant is being shoved, pushed there, it makes sense.
And that could also be a sign of, owners who maybe were letting the inspection of the coolant level and the coolant quality, just kind of letting that go, and that could also, contribute to issues with the overflow bottle. If there was some sort of an issue there with the design of this thing, the overall, not the design of the bottle itself, but the design of the cooling system at the bottle location, right? Mm-hmm. And again, this being a very late VIN, maybe there was something that they addressed, don't know. All I know is that it's we've never really had any failures that I'm aware of with the metal bottles that are out there. Are you aware of any failures with the metal bottles?
I haven't heard of any.
Okay. So yeah, there's I don't know if that's,
there might have been a bottle sold by Hervey at one time where the neck of the coolant tank came off.
Okay.
But
yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So there's some serious oil leaking from the engine. You can see the residue just kind of built up, especially around the oil filter area. And you got going on your starter. Yeah, that could lead to electrical problems. Let's see. He's got the original. Looks like he's got the original alternator in there too. Although
saw that.
Yeah, and that's the 90 amp Motorola, which I had when I bought my car, it was in there too. They still work. It's just they're kind of on the borderline, right?
Yeah, 40 years old.
Yeah. I can't tell if the CV axle boots need replacement. It kind of looked like they did in one photo I saw here. There may be some additional photos. There's the VIN plate, 20042. Let's see where we're at. We're still at 42250 on this one, late VIN. So for the time, the epoxy was actually pretty good. So Mark in the chat. The only problem with that epoxy, I think, is with the grounds. So when you look at where they grounded the electrical system at various parts along the frame, they didn't. The epoxy adds sort of a barrier between the ground connection and the frame itself. So that in some cases, when I started upgrading my ground system, I stripped away the epoxy around there to get a better connection to the metal. Mm-hmm. And I think, cumulatively, you've got the alternator trying to keep up with that. The weak grounds in the car. There's just that whole Lucas system, right? I think cumulatively, it was just a subpar wiring system for the electrical aspect of the car.
Right, and since the main body is fiberglass, it's not helping.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's see. He's got the original ASI included. I don't know if he has the knobs for it, but hey, at least he's got that. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about this car. At one end, it's kind of cool that it's a very late VIN, but on the other end of things, I think he could have cleaned it up a little bit just to present it better. But hey, maybe he's just like, well, I just don't care. I'm gonna just take pictures of it as is. I'll just wash the outside, and that we'll call it a day and see what happens, right? So it's at 42,250 right now. I got little over 5 minutes left with the car. I did notice some of the comments, similar comments that we had about maybe 2 auctions ago, which was just a couple weeks ago, with the deferred maintenance and, you don't have to maintain these cars. You don't have to worry about the fuel lines. You don't have to worry about things like that plastic overflow bottle. He put 57,000 miles on that plastic overflow bottle, right, with no failure. And that could very well happen, right? I think with those and the fuel lines, it's definitely an abundance of caution kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is it very, very, very likely for that to happen? No, right? Failure of those. But could it? Yes. What we've seen. So why take the chance? It's a low-cost replacement there for peace of mind, I think. But I noticed the same characters here in the chat or in the comments here saying the same thing about this car that they did in the other one. And let me see if I can zero in on that. So Chris Blood is the seller. I don't know who that is. I don't know if he's active in the community or not. One of the things he mentioned here this morning, he goes, one of the fun things about being a DeLorean owner, besides driving this iconic vehicle, is the parties and events you get invited to. That's true, though. I mean, there's a lot of cool events that I've gone to since I've been an owner, and I made a lot of new friends, yourself included,
right.
And across the world, right? It's amazing. I was just chatting with Alex Michael out of Germany, and if you guys know Alex Michael, DeLorean owner out of Germany, and author of one of the latest in the DeLorean books. He's going to be at DCS, so we're kind of chatting about him. He's actually going to be a guest speaker there, I think, too. He's one of the guests at DCS, so that's going to be kind of cool. Going to finally meet him in person, but got to meet and make a lot of new friends across the world. Guys in Japan, in the UK, all around Europe, Australia. Obviously here in the States, Latin America, Canada, etc. Right, so it's actually really kind of cool. I thought. Now, as far as some of the stuff you get invited to, quote unquote, invited to, are these events where people want an '80s DeLorean car there, right, because of their '80s event. Those are the ones that I kind of shy away from a little bit. I know some guys are into renting their car out and that kind of thing. I did it a couple times, and I was a nervous wreck the whole time. So that's just not for me.
I don't like it either.
Some guys are just all for it, and you can make some pretty good money, I guess, doing that. The last one, it was $1,000 to wrap your car and have it appear in that music video.
Right.
That was an instant no for me. I didn't even have to think about it, right? But they were quick to get quite a few cars, and I think they got 10 or so. Even Danny Botkin threw his car in the mix, and a few other guys that we know. 42,500, and you've got a little over 2 minutes left. So now we're getting into the final moments of the auction. So let's see if this thing can break 50. I guess we'll find out.
Oh, there we go. 44.
So Big Sarge is in the chat, and now it's starting to get kind of exciting here. We're at 44, and here we go, the 88s again. So anyway, getting back to this preventative maintenance. So this guy Mushad, who I recognize the name here on Bring a Trailer, you know, he's so he's the winner of that, like 2 auctions ago, the one who won the 54 500. So he's the guy who won that auction. So he had a few things to say with about this car, and God, sometimes this browser. So I'm not sure why you cannot grasp that some things you can run to failure. Other things you should not. Just because you're against preventative maintenance doesn't mean you should encourage others to do the same with their property. I agree, and I read some of this stuff on here. You know, this car is an example of where you have like original fuel lines, and you have, you know, the original overflow bottle, that kind of stuff on here. So just because you've got a car with 57,000 miles and the original stuff on it, does that mean that those don't ever need to be replaced? What kind of logic is that? You know what I mean? So, and I think Bring a Trailer would probably be the last place I would want to seek advice on when it comes to anything to do with the car, except if I were to try to buy one, right?
Right.
Maintenance, support, technical question, things like that. This is the last place you want to go. And here's a great example of why, right? A message to the new owner from someone who has owned a DeLorean for many years and miles: change parts when needed, and not just because a select few feel the need to tell you to do so. So that right there. Hey, are we at the end here?
Well, it was 5 seconds.
Winning bid. It ended. Oh man, this guy, 44,088 SN 2010. So it's sold. That's a pretty low price.
I think I mean, for this car, they did well, and they're going to be able to, you know, work on it and put some money into it and be okay.
Yeah, so Ramblin' Tom said he did not see this car getting the 45, much less 50,000. And I was kind of with you on that, Ramblin' Tom. So I think the seller, and it looked like towards the end here, the seller was really kind of trying to reach out to, I guess maybe some of the bidders or whoever on here to try to say, hey, look, you know, you guys need to wake up and bid on my car. It's kind of early in the morning, at least for me, you know. I know for you, Chris, you probably don't get up until 10 anyway, right?
No, I did the special, Todd.
Yeah, I rolled out of bed. It was probably like 8:30, grabbed my coffee, and I'm like, okay, Chris, are you awake? Oh man, I had a long day at work yesterday. It was pretty fun though. You know, and thinking about maintenance and preventative maintenance of this car, and some of these guys, it's the same guy who, at least in the chat on the DeLorean Tech live stream chat about 2 auctions ago, there was some guy saying that, yeah, there's a lot of trolls on here that are, you know, kind of making poor recommendations and that kind of stuff, right? You see that all over the place. It is what it is. You just need to, you know, sort of look past all that, right? For new owners, though, it can be kind of frustrating, right? For new owners, when you see that kind of stuff. Fortunately, there is a lot of resources out there. Hopefully, you know, we've been a good resource to prospective owners and new owners and existing owners, right?
I get emails, you know, I watch your videos. You know, they're helpful, and you know, people are, you know, engaged. I mean, there's not a lot of, you know, like DeLorean, like technical content on YouTube that's like, you know, available. That's like consistently, you know, updated or new things being talked about.
No, I agree.
You've been able to kind of meet that need.
That's an amazing price if you're a buyer, right? I mean,
Yeah.
44,000. Congrats, definitely, to the winner of this one here. It's a driving car for 44,000. Very late VIN 83. You know, and you know there could be reasons why it didn't fetch. I think photos. And just you know obviously the first thing, right, first impressions are everything, I think. And you know if the seller was hoping to get something a little higher than that, like I think you know that kind of goes without saying, right? And the seller hasn't said anything. So the seller hasn't said anything on this, right? So you know I don't know what my feedback, I guess we could talk about that, right? Feedback to those looking to sell their car, and we just sold your car like what, a few months ago, right, Chris? And
Yeah.
there was a lot of photos and videos, and it just, you know, you were there to answer questions about the car, and you personally worked on it. You did a lot of stuff, upgraded it, you replaced the clutch. There's a lot of that there. So comfort level, right, and what you're getting yourself into is huge. And here's a very good example of where that comes into play, I
Right.
think.
And, I mean, hail damage, that's a kind of a red flag. I mean,
Yep.
and if you can't see it and you don't know like exactly where it is, I mean,
Yeah, and those photos that we looked at, it was kind of hard to tell, right? I don't,
right.
you know, well, we can look at one photo here. I mean, I just don't see anything, right? And I've got a pretty good monitor here on my setup. He replaced the windshield. Well, was it cracked because of the hail? Like, what sort of like damage are we talking about here ultimately? And it is hard to pick up on the camera, and it doesn't look like he really tried to take photos to represent the damage. There's literally only two photos that I can see, just of the roof itself here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you could have taken photos at certain angles where you can see the extent of the damage, and that doesn't look like the seller even tried to do that. It's not. I mean, you can do it, right? It may take some time and some finagling with the camera or whatever, but you can do it, right? So there's that. He did mention it, probably to say, hey, look, you know, it's there. You know, don't be surprised when you get the car and you see all the hail damage that you couldn't see in the photos, right? But you know, and if it's on the doors, that's a problem. The T section on top, that can be replaced. That's not a big deal. The doors are where you have an issue, right? And you know, addressing that, I don't even want to think about that.
That's a big labor right there.
Exactly. If you want to repair that, I mean, there's Chris Nicholson's out there, you know, that might be able to deal with that. But that's just another thing to have to worry about. Body panel damage that, you know, there's some stuff you might, like me, I've overlooked one dent on my car since I bought it, and I keep telling myself, yeah, I'm gonna get to it, and I actually rolled a little bit of it out myself. I got to the point where I just didn't feel comfortable because of my skill set. I'm not a body repair guy, you know, so I just
Right.
kind of said, look, I'm done. I don't want to make it worse. You know. But anyway, you know, this car, I wouldn't call it a rough car, but it did need some cleaning up. I think there was some oil leakage going on here, and that could be coming from a number of different places.
Could be looking from the valve cover or you know, the oil filter itself. I mean, oil pan. There's just a lot of
Yeah, so this
areas.
this guy here, Merc S55, again, he kind of gave his input. This need to insist that parts need to be replaced before necessary. Now, what does that mean, necessary? The community has already identified what parts need to be replaced, right? So that are necessary to be replaced, right? So what does he mean by that? Does he mean after they fail? So after the fuel
I
line,
guess.
the fuel line ruptures, then it's time to replace it. Is that what he means, or does he mean, if you notice some corrosion on it or something like that, you can, with the fuel lines, you're not going to see the internals of what's going on. You're not going to see the cracking of the nylon lines on the
No,
inside. You're just
that's the
not going to see
problem.
it.
You
So,
brush up against it, they're going to crack, they're going to leak. I
yep.
mean,
So it perplexes this guy, right? It's confusing to him why you would even consider doing that. Okay, it's not any different from an '83 Chrysler. Okay, we're comparing that to an '83 Chrysler now, which to a
yeah,
certain
except
degree.
83 Chryslers don't exist anymore.
There you go. So where's your basis for comparison, right? Would anyone sober replace the fuel lines and radiator overflow just because they were told to by the peanut gallery? So there's a lot going on with that sentence there, right? The peanut gallery. So who is the peanut gallery? Who does he mean? I don't know. I guess maybe the peanut
All the
gallery
regular
knows.
commenters, I guess, that
Yeah.
always pipe up.
Right, right. So that's kind of funny, Buy the car, drive the car, enjoy the car, do repairs as needed. Sorry, seller. Well, that's not really good advice, right? I mean, you get this car, it may not even start, right? I mean, you don't know. You may not be able to drive the car. Who knows? Who knows what's going on, right? I mean, maybe there were some issues with the car that weren't divulged. We've seen that happen, right?
Yeah.
A lack of videos, a lack of photos. He did have that one driving video, so you know, there's that, right? Your car looks fine, and I'm sure the new owner will enjoy it. Yeah. So I mean, and it's kind of funny. The seller 2 auctions ago did address it, and I would have to agree with that guy. You don't just, and I don't know if, honestly, I don't know if this guy here, Merck, is suggesting that we just ignore, the fuel lines and let it go, right? Just ignore the coolant overflow bottle and just let it go. That's not very good recommendation on the car. Not very good advice.
We don't even know if that Merc guy has a DeLorean. Maybe he does. I don't know.
It says he says he does. He says he's owned the car for many years and miles. I think in one, I don't know if it was the same guy, but there was another guy that was kind of sort of echoing what this guy Merck was saying, that he had two cars, one low miles car and one car that he drives a lot. Was kind of echoing the same thing that this guy Merck was saying, which yeah, it's really poor advice to be giving anyone getting into these cars. Most of the guys who own the cars, like yourself, Ryan Foster, and a lot of these guys we know, right, will just roll their eyes at this stuff, And fortunately, the community is out there and is easily accessible, and and it's just the bring a trailer crowd that you see where you see stuff like this, at least from what I am exposed to. I obviously I go on social media quite a bit, but I'm usually putting content out there as opposed to reading stuff as much. I don't have the time, honestly, as much as some folks do. So I can imagine there's a lot more of this out there that I'm aware of. So the rest of us would prefer to prevent failure. So, Mark, I agree with you on that. Preventative maintenance is key. And I was just thinking about this yesterday in this car here, and some of the deferred maintenance that probably has been going on with this car, even though it's been driven a lot. There's a lot of stuff that we've identified that needs to be replaced: fuel lines, the coolant overflow bottle, things like that, for preventative failure in the future, right? That may or may not have happened. We see a lot of leaking under the engine of the engine oil itself. So again, preventative maintenance, just your ongoing routine maintenance may have been skipped here and there, deferred. We don't really know with this car. Was there a maintenance log included here? I see a bunch of brochures and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't really see a maintenance log. like we saw with at least one or both of the last auction cars here.
There were
Did he?
some invoices and stuff
So it looks like
available.
he might actually have the fuel lines purchased for this car.
I think that was just to show you how much they cost. I don't know
Oh,
if he
got
actually
it, got
bought
it.
them.
Yeah, this is just a website. You know, like, hey, here you go. I'm not gonna do it, but in case you want to
Right.
do it, it's only $279. Of course, he shows the set of 9, which arguably that's I wouldn't even call that the minimum you should do, right? The minimum is 13. If you want to go to the full 17, that's highly recommended, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
gets into the fuel pump lines, the accumulator lines, right? And the engine lines, the engine fuel hoses that need to be addressed as well. So let's take a look at what we got in the chat here. So Tony Smith, videos are very helpful, especially the 1 hour aluminum Midwest lower control arm install video. Yeah, that's the one that we did on David Daniels' car. Remember that, Chris? That was fun, right? Oh man,
That was a job, yeah.
that was fun. Where we actually had to cut the ball joint to get the passenger side off. Remember that one? So that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
So that was also a combination of, I think he replaced the upper ball joint on the upper control arm too. So we had to take that whole thing off. I think it was like 2 videos I did out of that one. So thanks for that, Tony. Yeah, and he mentions the LCA upper ball joint custom video. And so a Halstead 40 is pointing at the 3 dings on the roof can be seen. It looks like 2 on the left-hand door towards the window. So he was able to see some dings on the roof. I couldn't make them out, but maybe because of the brightness of my monitor or whatever, I couldn't see it. And right side looks like 4 inches or so behind the black trim. So he was able to point out some of the dings there. You know, if I were looking at these photos, I would look at them at different light levels, different contrast levels, to see if I can spot something that you wouldn't really pick up with the naked eye just looking at the photos, right? I might download them and then subject them to different contrast levels, brightness levels, to see if I can pick up something I would normally not see. That's one thing you could do. It doesn't always work, but hey, it's something that you can do if you're really serious about buying this car and you want to pick up body panel damage, because that's not cheap to address.
No,
His car.
the body's probably one of the more expensive parts on the car.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Hey, Michael Cabrera with a $5 super chat. Thank you, appreciate that, Mike. Mike is a good friend of mine from work, and I've known Mike for many years. He's not a DeLorean owner, but he's a DeLorean fan, just like many others out there. And what's up from Cerritos, California? Keep up the fantastic work. Thanks a lot, Mike. Really appreciate that. Talk to you soon. Mark, his car on fire is his check engine light. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know, that's, I don't know. I just the comments on there. I think this guy Merck isn't doing the seller any favors by pointing stuff out like that. I mean, it's kind of a lot of guys who are looking at buying the car. They know about this stuff, right? They know about this stuff, right?
Right.
Some don't. I remember when I was looking around, I didn't know all of this until I started talking to the community, right? But I knew about a lot of this stuff prior to buying my car because I reached out to the community. And that's really kind of that. And then there's articles on the internet that you can read. But our goal, DeLorean Tech, is to get the word out and to help new owners, help existing owners, help prospective owners, and just to help educate the community, because we love the car. We want to see owners happy with the car, right? We want to stop all this, or at least prevent all this bad press that the car gets. You know, you still see it, even in, right?
Right. Just ignorance, and you know, keep repeating the same, you know, old things that, you know, that weren't true back in the 80s, and they still aren't true now, but they keep being repeated.
Yeah, it's the same old stuff, and it's just weird. Like, it'll come out of nowhere, right? I remember, so Mark, down here in Southern California, he posted those photos on Facebook of him getting pulled over by a CHP for speeding, right? And I don't remember if his post actually stated that he was speeding, right? It actually wasn't his post. It was the CHP's post. And as it turns out, they did pull him over for speeding, because I spoke to Mark about this, because I recognized this car from the photos, right? They, for whatever reason, the license plate, I think, wasn't visible in the photos or something, where you couldn't see it, but I noticed at least one photo, and I was like, oh, that's his car. There was something in it. I think it had his Punisher skull decal in it or something. So I immediately contacted him. Hey, what's going on with here? But the comments were just ridiculous, Oh my God. Like, all the trolls just, like, somebody just opened up the door to the dungeon and let them all out, right? It was something else. And I started reading this stuff. I was going to comment and, like, you know what? I was going to leave this alone. I was way outnumbered. There was 88 miles. There was Back to the Future jokes, cocaine jokes. There was just everything under the sun, right? But the common theme was these cars can't make it past, whatever speed limit, right? Whatever speed, which is completely ridiculous, right? Especially given the fact there's almost no drag on this car, right? And if you're an owner, right? I mean, it's just kind of funny. It's just kind of funny. So, and part of our goal with DeLorean Tech is really to educate and sort of, re-educate the public when it comes to the DeLorean. So once again, Chris, thanks a lot for your input on this car. I think you and I were on the same page here. Mm-hmm. Congratulations to the winner of the auction, whoever that is. We didn't click on this guy's profile here like we usually do. Curious to see who that is. Oh, he has bid on other cars. He bid on that one a couple auctions ago. The one that was up for sale by that car collector. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he bid up to, so his I think his limit was probably around 50 or so. So he was definitely able to pick one up. So congratulations to him. He had been looking at purchasing a car, so it looks like he finally got one. So that's good, and it's a really good price. I mean, $44,000. Wow. Yeah. That's an excellent price for this car. Even even though it's dirty and it's got some stuff going on here, but it's a driving car. This according to the videos that we have here. So, Chris, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
And I guess we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah.
We need to get a legit Zoom call going on here so we can get you on the screen. So it's one of the things I keep thinking about. Yeah, we need to go there. And maybe we'll bring in a few other folks too, depending on who's available. These auctions, they just kind of, like on a Saturday morning, is very rare. They're usually sometime during the week when I can't make it, that kind of thing in the afternoon. But this is a Saturday morning, and this worked out. Chris, thanks a lot once again. Appreciate it.
Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so 44,088 for this late VIN 1983 DeLorean. And we were talking about DCS a little earlier. That's going to be coming up in just over a month, and we'll be there. So if you're thinking about DeLorean convention and show, definitely drop us a line and let us know if you're planning on attending, so we can meet up. It's a really cool show. We went there 2 years ago. I know Alex Michael, who I know mainly online, He's going to be there, so we're going to get to meet him in person as well for the first time. So that's going to be pretty cool. And then a lot of other guys that we met at the show 2 years ago are going to be there as well. So there had to be an 88 in the number. Yeah, for sure. It's been a while since we got an 88 in the final price for these cars. So DCS 2023, that's going to be pretty cool. There's a good lineup of folks. So you got Zach DeLorean coming back. We have a video from his 2021 DCS appearance. It's a really long interview that was facilitated by Tamir. So you can check that out on the channel if you haven't already. It's called Under the Hood, an interview with Zach DeLorean. So we've got that video. So we'll probably do another one. So we are the DCS videographer again this year. So we'll be doing some more videos like we did last year. So that's going to be really fun. So again, DCS 2023. Just wanted to plug that show. There's going to be an open house at DeLorean Midwest again. It's a really awesome facility. Really awesome people that work there. So if you want to come out, you can meet Josh Shattenkirk. Just started working there as well this year or last year, and Mike McElhatton, who is the owner of DeLorean Midwest, will be there as well, along with everybody else at DeLorean Midwest. So a lot of great people. What else? So if you are like me and you're a DeLorean Hot Wheels collector, the new Hot Wheels DeLorean just came out, and I got a lot of reflection there, so I'll take it out of this car keeper so you can kind of see that. The new Hot Wheels DeLorean, it's a blue one, 80s. It just came out. So if you're a collector, this is actually a really nice one, I thought. I like that color. I like the wheels on it. So that just came out. As you guys know, I'm also a big model collector, mainly Hot Wheels. I also like the larger scale models, like the Hot Toys and the Eagle Moss, and there's another 110 scale DeLorean model coming up from Tomy, no less, next year, and that's going to be really interesting because that one has got a lot more to it. It's going to be die cast, which is a very large, kind of like, I guess, it's metal like the Eagle Moss, so it's going to weigh a lot, and I think it's going to weigh like 9 pounds or something. Is what I remember them talking about on the Denobi did a live stream on that with the marketing folks at Tomy, and they even demoed the smoke effect, which I thought was kind of cool. So that's going to be coming out next year, but it's going to be offered via they're going to do a Kickstarter for that, and they're going to try to generate interest. So if you're interested in that, I would jump on that Kickstarter, because the earlier you, I guess, commit to buying that, the more you save. Or I think you save $100 right off the bat if you get in early. I'm just gonna, I think it's $299 versus $399 for that if you get in early. And there's some freebies. I think you get an Einstein, and there's some other like lightning rod attachment. So it is a Back to the Future DeLorean time machine that they're going to be offering up from Tomy, 110 scale, and that's going to be pretty cool. I don't know if there's well, you can check out Denobi's video, and they demoed the smoke effect. I thought that was pretty cool on their prototype. They have a 3D printed prototype of the model. They don't have a final yet. They've been making a lot of improvements based on feedback from the community. So that Tomy model, if you look at some of the earlier photos of that, it had red wires and that kind of stuff. But they've addressed all of that. They admitted it didn't look good, so it looks a lot better than it did before. So that is from, gosh, what case is that from? So Ramblin' Tom is wondering what case that was from, and I can find out. Let's see here. I'll let you know in a second here, because let's find out what case that's from. Yeah, so Mark just found 4 of those at his local grocery store. And yeah, so I don't know, Mark, if you are here in the States. I had to order mine on eBay, so I have not seen any of the domestic version. The one I have here, the Hot Wheels, this is the international long card. So I ordered this. DeLorean model collector. He's really good at getting these as quickly as possible for his collection. So he posted about this on Instagram, and I think he got his. He gets most of his stuff on eBay. So a lot of the Malaysia Hot Wheels companies will throw these up on eBay pretty quick. You have to pay a little bit more. I think it paid like 15 bucks or something for this thing, but I really wanted to have it, right? And well, here it is, right? And I don't think the short card is available yet. Now, as far as which case this is, I'll let you know that in a second here. I need to go back to to eBay here because it actually said it is case. Oh, come on. Case M. So it is Case M, mainline DMC DeLorean. It's the 80s, the dark blue. So there's the light blue that came out. Now we got a dark blue. So I think this one is way better looking than the other one, personally. That one's not bad, too. It actually looks a lot like the Italian Turismo, the light blue Turismo. Very similar color, if not the same color as that one. So I did recently photograph all of these together because now there's some blue DeLorean, at least these modern version of these DeLoreans from Hot Wheels, where they never had that before. They were all different colors, right? Yeah, mine looks identical to that, 99 cents. Yeah, they're $1. If you go to your local grocery store, they should be about $1 or so each. If they're out there, awesome. I need to get a domestic card, and I also need to get my international short card for these. I collect all of them as much as I can. If I can get them really, really cheap, I'll buy as many as I can, and I usually give those away at shows or parades to kids. You know, they love the car, so here you go. They're always excited to see the car and to get a hand on one of these DeLorean Hot Wheels. Oh, so you're in Seattle, and you've already seen the dark blue ones. Excellent. So they must have just came out then. I need to keep my eye on those. I don't get to make it to the grocery store a whole lot, but when I do, I do try to look for those. I've never actually found a Hot Wheels DeLorean in the grocery store before, ever, even though I've got a massive collection, and I try to get every single one. And I think I do have every single Hot Wheels DeLorean ever offered, even going back to the DeLorean Turismos. I've got all of those. I might be missing one or two card variations on those, but I think I've got the majority, and as well as the current Hot Wheels DeLoreans that were, that started being offered over a decade ago, right? So let's see here. So once again, $44.88 on this 1983 auction. And we're going to go ahead and wrap up this live stream. Once again, everybody, thanks for tuning in. I don't know if another auction has popped up. I guess we can find out. So let's take a look at prices, actually, before we sign out here. So always curious to see what the trend is like. This is a driving car. It's not really a project car. It just needed some cleanup, I think, on it. So we are down in this area here. We got 61, 54. This one down in 44 again. So it's up and down. So we had one for 42, then 54, and 61, back down to 44 again. And if you look at those auctions and you look at where those cars sold, right? A picture really says everything, right? Definitely judge a book by the cover, kind of thing is what they say. This one here was that one owner, that original owner car. that had a lot of original stuff on it. Very nice car. And then we had this car from the collector, right? It took 54.5, but then of course $10,000 below that you have today's car, a very very late VIN 83. Very uncommon to see that. You know, you're lucky to see a 17 series 83, let alone a 20. So definitely one of the very last of the production cars that that was available for sale here. 44,000 is a really excellent price if you're a buyer on this car. It didn't seem like there was a heck of a lot to do, but of course, you know, like anything else on Bring a Trailer, you never know what you're gonna get yourself into. That's why it's always important to make sure the seller is posting videos, and he did post quite a few videos on this car. It's just there was a couple driving videos that I think were maybe missing, like cabin, inside the cabin driving videos. There was that one drive-by that it's okay, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more on that one. And maybe he would have commanded more money on this auction if he had have posted that and maybe cleaned up the car a little bit before taking photos. And that's really all I could kind of think of. Yeah, it had the original stuff, but I think these cars also had the original, some of the original fuel lines and coolant. This one didn't, but I think this one had original fuel lines here. The original owner car, and then this one here in the collection, that one had original fuel lines as well as the bottle, and that didn't seem to affect the auction overly much. I mean, 54.5, it probably prevented it from getting into the 60s, but you know, it's really hard to say. A lot of factors into these auctions, but anyway, there you go, 44,088. And once again, everyone, we'll check the chat one more time here. So David also hand out Hot Wheels. Yeah, it's really cool to do that. There's a 4th of July parade that is coming up here in just a couple days here local that we're going to be going out to, and it's always fun to do that. So you know, happy 4th of July to everybody out there. And there's going to be quite a few, actually. Southern California, I know it's kind of a nationwide kind of thing with DeLoreans and parades, especially on 4th of July. And that's one of those where we hand out the cars, the Hot Wheels cars, to some of the spectators in the parade and some of the kids, and they really love it. So the last one I handed out, the dad tried to give me money for it. And yeah, and said, no, that wasn't the point, right? And I agree with you on that. I don't know that anyone tried to pay me for one. I usually just, you know, hey, you know, you want a DeLorean too? Here you go, right? And I always keep a few in the car in a little box in the under the bonnet to hand out. I handed a few out at the Lion Estates 1955 live stream that we did over at the restaurant where we met up for lunch. So I handed a few out there as well. You know, the DeLorean, it always attracts a lot of attention, and it's always fun to, just to reach out to the public, you know, get the car out there and to really kind of interact with the public. So Snaffling Pig, thank you. Really appreciate the support. Mark is saying he found a short card BTTF flying mode DeLorean in the store once. Amazing find. Yeah, those are, for me, any DeLorean in the store, Hot Wheels, would be an amazing find since I have never seen one. It's just my luck has just been bad. Of course, I don't try that hard. It's usually when I'm at the grocery store that I will try to find a Hot Wheels DeLorean, and I never do. Right, I've never. So it's for me. It's usually eBay or something. I think I picked up some on Mercari, you know, that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, I've never been able to find one in person. Hopefully that day will come. I think that if it does happen, I'm gonna record it because that will be a momentous occasion. So I'll make a video about it. It just hasn't happened yet. So. You know, we're going to be handing out a bunch of Hot Wheels DeLoreans, and really the one that we hand out the most is the last Time Machine DeLorean that came out. So I was able to get a lot of those really cheap. I've probably got about 100 of those that I use, that I give away at events. And I've got like an endless supply of those that I was able to get really, really cheap. So I keep those on hand for parades and shows and all that kind of stuff. So it's always pretty exciting. Is there a DMC-24 Hot Wheels due to come out this year? That's a good question. So David Jones in the chat is asking about that. And we did a video on that last year when we went to Pebble Beach. That was almost a year ago, I think. It's about, I don't know, maybe 9 months or something like that. Where at the DeLorean house at Pebble Beach, they had a Hot Wheels X DeLorean exhibit in there where they had the what do they call them? The historical cars or the theoretical cars. I can't remember what they call them. But one of those being the DMC-24, which was a concept way back in the early 80s. John wanted like a four-seater, right? So that four-seat concept sort of is where the Alpha 5 kind of comes from, at least according to what they've stated, right? And you can kind of see it, right? So if you've seen the DMC-24. There's that model that Ital Design put together way back when. It's a 1/1 scale model. I don't remember what it was made out of, but it's not a driving vehicle. I guess it's kind of like the Alpha 5 Plasma Tail or something, right? And that's probably at Ital Design still, that particular model. But anyway, that's what they kind of based the Alpha 5 on, because that was supposed to be DeLorean's next car. It was going to be a four-seat. Barry Willis says it was going to be stainless steel, four-seat car with gull wing doors. It would just have, the two doors. It would not have four doors, four gull wings, kind of like the Alpha 5. It's just got these really massive gull wings, right, that just, come up, and you get four people in there, So how well you can fit them in. I wasn't able to get into the back seat of the Alpha 5. I was able to sit down in the front seat. It does look like it might be a tight fit. So for those of you who are familiar with Porsche, right, and the rear seat there, if you could even call it that, it might be sort of tight back there. At least it looks that way. If you're super tall or whatever, it might be kind of challenging. But you can fit, four people in the car. And that was what John DeLorean wanted to do next. And I think we did a video on that. On the DMC-24, his vision of that, and kind of where the Alpha 5 kind of connects into that vision, to see it, actually come to fruition. Now, whether you like the Alpha 5 or not, that's a whole nother story, but that's kind of where the marketing is on that. It is really kind of based on that DMC-24 concept. Now, whether or not we're going to see one in Hot Wheels form, I don't know. We don't even have the Hot Wheels set for that yet, right? So that one, that's kind of a mystery to me. A lot of the contacts that I had at DMR, DeLorean Motors Reimagined, they have actually left the company, so I don't have a new contact to even comment on, on that. I do know that the Alpha 5 DMC-12 set from Hot Wheels that was at Pebble Beach that we all pre-ordered. I ordered like 10 of those, again, probably to give some away at whatever, maybe even do a contest or something. Those are supposed to come out later this year, is what I remember. So I haven't got any updates on that from Hot Wheels, but at the Pebble Beach, there was some concept stuff of these legacy cars that, the DMC-24 was kind of like the Alpha, right? That's Alpha 1, and then you had Alpha 2, 3, 4, and then you have the Alpha 5, right? These legacy cars are the ones that they had sort of these, they weren't actual like prototypes of the Hot Wheels car. They were almost like little cardboard sort of cutouts that were inside the packaging. If they just did that as a kind of like an advertising thing, and they weren't really, going to move forward with those for Hot Wheels, I can't confirm that because, again, my contacts, I need to reach out to someone over there to find out what's going on there. My impression was that they were going to come out with the legacy cars as Hot Wheels. It looks like they went through the trouble to do card backs, and maybe we can pull that up and see what those look like. That's a good question. I haven't really thought about that in a while. I think looking back, that was at Pebble Beach, and I'll go to the. I think I just might as well just go to that video that I posted on the Pebble Beach. On that exhibit they had at Pebble Beach, and so here it is. We'll just go to it. So that would be about right here, the generational cars. That's what they called them. So there it is. There's the DMC-12 Hot Wheels. That's not really a. You can tell it's kind of like a little facade kind of a thing going on there. It's just a little image that they have, a little cutout. But when I saw this, and I had no idea that any of this was even going to be there, I thought to myself, wow, they're gonna do the whole lineup, right, of these generational cars. The generational cars, it's kind of like a marketing thing where, hey, what if DeLorean didn't fail? Like this alternate universe is, the multiverse, right? What if DeLorean continued on into the future up until today? What cars would they have produced? That's where I think they're kind of, the marketing is. And then they kind of reimagined what that would have looked like with these cars, and it kind of factors in, it kind of incorporates the DMC-12 into that alternate universe, that alternate timeline, right? Which I thought was kind of an interesting marketing tool. I don't know that everybody really understood that. A lot of folks were just kind of questioning that marketing, that campaign they did with all of that. I thought it was kind of an interesting marketing idea to do all that. So you can kind of see here in this video those cars that they were going to do. Now honestly, I don't know. So there's the Alpha 2, which was, I believe that is the, if I'm not mistaken, is it the Pontiac Solstice or something? This one here, I can't remember what they called that back in the 90s. I guess they were gonna do another DeLorean. I don't have the full history of that one. I've just read about it here and there, like on DMC Talk and stuff like that. There's the Alpha 3. That is kind of the SUV sort of hybrid or crossover, maybe. I think it's like a crossover type car that would have come out in the 2000s. And then of course there's the Alpha 4, which is like a full-on SUV that would have come out in 2010s. And in the 2020s, you've got the Alpha 5, right? So that's kind of where they took it. Now, again, if they decide they want to do some Hot Wheels of these in the future, honestly, I don't know. I do know they're going to do of the DMC-12 and of course the Alpha 5. We do know that because we ordered them, right? I ordered those as well, and it'd be cool if they did them all. Especially the DMC-12, right? Because that is a true legacy concept that John had in mind. So whether or not we get to see that, at least the DMC-12, that would be pretty awesome to see. Do you know about the guy that made a 24? Yes. So the DMC-12, where he did some serious modifications to the back of the car. I think he even put a different motor in it. And yeah, that was quite an endeavor, and he was able to get some back seats in there. So I thought that was, and he's the only one who's done it, right? So he's the only one who did that, and that's a good point. We should bring that video up because that was probably one of the coolest mods that we've ever seen here. Here we go. And here it is. John Doerr. So John Doerr is a good friend of the channel as well. He appeared actually as a guest on the Alpha 5 unveiling live stream, and he also is the videographer for the most recent the most recent Prototype 1 video that we did, that we released. I think it was last year or something. He filmed that for us. So here is his car, the DMC-12, right? The 4C, and he calls it the DMC-12, which is a modified DMC-12 to have the back seat in there. And you got to admit, he did a really nice job. And I like how he, color keyed the seats to sort of match the Prototype 1 a little bit, like with that tan color. So I think it kind of works on the car myself. And if you look at Prototype 1, it looks amazing, I think. If something about that interior in the Prototype 1 car that really catches my eye, it really kind of, it looks really sharp. A lot of you guys have commented the same on that. And they restored the heck out of Prototype 1, and it looks amazing. I'm really hoping, I haven't seen it in person. I'm really hoping to get to the museum there in Hershey, Pennsylvania to check that out. But the DMC-12, this guy, John Doerr, did an amazing job on this car. I know he had to do some serious frame and engine modification work, as well as fiberglass work on this car, relocating everything in the and all of the electronics back here, everything, the relay compartment and the battery, all had to be relocated, as well as on the other side of the bulkhead, just down from the bulkhead, all the electronics there. So there was a lot of work that went into this. It is not an easy thing to convert a DeLorean to 4-seat. So you should check this video out. It's pretty cool. And he still drives the car around. He's still got it. He's even got seat belts. If you check that out there, he's got the seat belts in there. I thought it was a pretty cool. And there it is right there. He's got these pretty cool wheels on it as well there. So definitely check this video out. A very cool looking car. Hopefully one of these days we can see this car in person. There's a lot of really awesome cars out there and here's a photo of the motor that he put into it. Looks a lot like the PRV. I think, what did he say he added to it? I don't know if he has all the information in there, but if you watch the video, you can see what he did. He did a lot of work on it, and I think there's a lot of photos of the modifications that he did on the car, like before and after. And you can kind of see here where he's working on the fiberglass tub, and here's your normal like before and after kind of stuff, right? And here's some where he just like is just tearing it apart. So a lot of work. Oh, it's from Renault Alpine GTA. The engine, rear subframe, suspension, and the transmission from a Renault Alpine GTA. So there's the motor. That's why it kind of resembles a bit of the DeLorean, the stock DeLorean motor. But it just so happens that this was more compatible for use with a 4-seat car. So anyway, guys, I think we're going to wrap this up. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you guys in the next live stream.